Hello again, my name is Simon, and for this week's video, I thought that seeing as we've just done the North Island Secondary Schools Champs, that I would talk about, what's in an orange and how to move up, and the techniques you'd expect to use. So, first of all, I've got the technical description of an orange. So this is from the New Zealand Orienteering Federation competition rules. So an orange course shall have route choice with prominent attack points near the control sites and or catching features less than 100 meters behind. Control sites may be fairly small point features and the control markers need not necessarily be visible from the attack point. Exit from the control shall not be the same as the entry, brackets doglegs not permitted. Simple navigation by contours and rough compass with limited distance estimation required. Use for train of prominent features as stepping stones encouraged. Use for, and it says here MW16B Adult B classes. They forget to mention also it's the MW14A grade as well. So that's for club orienteering. So that's men's, women's 14-year-olds, the 14-year-olds at the sort of competition grade, the A grade, or 16, if you're 16 at the B grade, which is the one down, so that'd be equivalent to standard. And adult B classes as well. For secondary schools, it gets used for intermediate boys and intermediate girls championships, senior boys, senior girls standard, and the seniors on the relay. So, key points from that is, let's have a look, is you've got this new thing called a catching feature. And what a catching feature is it's a really big, obvious feature behind the control. So if you have a look at the map, we'll take an example of 4 to 5. If you go too far from 4 to 5, you're going to hit the fence. We'll just zoom in a bit so you can... Whoa, not that far. See? If you overrun 5, you'll hit this fence here. And you'll find that. So that's that. Popping it back up again. Control sites may... So other things is that control sites may be on small features. So like a small knoll or something. And they might not be visible from the attack point. The last thing that I'd look at is this whole last sentence. So simple navigation by contours and rough compass with limited distance estimation required. So what that means is as you're stepping up from a yellow to an orange, you're really going to need to double down on your contour reading. And you're going to need to be able to roughly know what you're doing with the compass. So you'll be able to take a simple bearing and say, I'm going that way, with some degree of accuracy. And that talks about stepping stones. So instead of having to run along, say, a linear track, a feature such as track or fence, maybe instead you're running along a ridge line, or you look at the map and it's a series of small hills that you can follow. So you can turn those into a linear feature. That's encouraged. So, back to the map. We'll move over and I'll just talk through this. So this is the Intermediate Boys Championship course at Prickly Sands. So that's the long. So, remember what we're looking for is we're looking for catching features, we're looking for attack points, we're going to look for the use of contour features, and maybe a little bit of bearing use as well. And so, remembering that. So, start to one, first thing stands out. The catching feature is, oops, that's not circled it. The catching feature is this vegetation boundary thing here. So that should be obvious enough that if you overrun the control, if you come past, hit it, whoops, you hit that. So the second thing I'll be looking at, contour features. Well, it's in a depression, so the control itself is actually in a contour feature. Attack point, most obvious one, end of the track there, and from there you're probably going to take a bearing into your contour, into your thing, which is the depression that controls them. And then remember, the control might not be visible from your attack points. In this case, the control is almost definitely not visible from the track end into the circle, into the feature. So you're going to need to be able to take your compass and just roughly do that. Looking at 1 to 2, you can identify the same sort of things. So first of all, it's roughly a bearing leg, you're going that way. Contour features and attack points. Well, it's a really big, nice, obvious one in the form of this hill here. And that's also your attack point. Catching feature is the road. 2 to 3, same sort of thing applies. You know, you're coming across, you're going over the road. Attack points in this case, if you can see it, maybe this hill stands out to you. So that big re-entrant, that's just pretty shallow. Maybe instead you end up using that vegetation boundary, or if none of those are visible, you might even use the road here instead. So as I come from 2 to 3, I'm running along the line, taking a bearing. I'll hit the road, and that tells me roughly where I am. I'll come down and see if I can see the control, or see the attack point in the vegetation boundary. They just come up the small ridge and into the knoll. Bearing in mind, again, the ridge might not be very visible. So the other thing it talked about was route choice, and I think probably the best example of route choice on this course is 3 to 4. So you've got 2 route choices. Good, you can see it. 3 to 4, you've got 2 route choices. There's something that looks like this, and there's something that looks like this. And depending on how the vegetation is, there might even be a straight line through here somewhere. But looking at the fact that it's green with undergrowth lines means it's probably very, very slow to run through, so I wouldn't bother with that. So you can take the normal techniques you use for this for a yellow. So you're looking at sort of having that plan and linking together features, which again you do in orange. So I'll focus on the... Actually, it doesn't matter. I'll focus on both of them. So first of all, the first half of the leg is basically a yellow leg anyway. So you guys should, on a yellow course, be able to navigate to here or here, respectively, because it's just along the track, take a left at the end, or along the road, take a right here. Will make sense. From there, of course, we leave the yellow navigation. We're going on to orange navigation. So what we'll be looking at, first thing I like to do, what's my attack point? And I'd actually hopefully have planned that before I arrive, but if you're just moving up to orange, don't worry about it. But definitely plan your attack points well, like, as you're doing the leg, at least. And if you're having trouble with an orange, probably the primary thing is that you're not reading contour attack points properly. So that's what I double down on. So in this case, that attack point is the contour feature that the control itself is on or next to. So first of all, you've got this ridge here, which should stand out for a while. And you've got, in particular, there's a hilltop here, which basically controls it on. And so knowing that that's the kind of thing I'm looking for as I'm running around is critical. And again, if you're not used to that, don't worry, you'll learn about it pretty quickly. So coming in for this route choice in black. Once you move out of here, what am I looking for? Well, I'm going to run roughly in the direction of the control. And I'm going to ideally see this hilltop. I know that it's just in a tiny event sort of on the hilltop, basically. It's just in there. And that's that leg. Again, looking at the catching features, if I overrun for whatever reason, which shouldn't happen because you know as soon as you've gone over this ridge, you've gone too far. But you've got this massive flat area which you can actually navigate off. And so I've been looking to use that to say I've gone too far. And again, if you sort of miss some of that somehow, you can start ending up here on that ridge with that track, and that's again another signal you've gone too far, or maybe you'll hit the fence line up here. So orange is sort of designed to give you their own little safety net in a way, so you can't mess up too badly by overshooting. There are other things you can do to make large mistakes, but one of the things you shouldn't do on an orange is overrun them. A final leg just to look at, just to go over again, is 6 to 7. So for these, I'll show you the routes, and I'd like you guys to have a think about, what's my attack points with the main one. And again, you're going to have to use contour features. So first route would be through there via the drink station. You might not stop there, but it means you have to cross less fences. And the fact there's a drink station there makes me think that they want us to use it. So that's the first route, it's going to come in that way. Or the second route would be to hop over the fences here and sort of try and follow the line as much as possible. Come in. So the first thing I'm going to look at now. So remember, control attack point route exit. is there's a really obvious attack point via 7. So what you're looking for is a contour feature, because that's the closest thing. I wouldn't use a fence, that's the catching feature. And so I'm looking for either a big hill, ideally, or a big depression, or something else that's unique and obvious nearby. And if you have a look, actually there is. So there's this nice big hill here. So identify that, and you look at it. And what you're looking for then is, how do I get into my control from my attack point? So if you're coming from this route choice up here, it's just a case of move in, around the hill, look for the depression. Making sure, of course, you don't go too far right, because you'll hit the fence. And then if you're coming from the southern one, just trying to stay on the line, you're coming over the side of the hill and into the depression. And coming over the side gives you a little bit better of a view into the control, because you're coming from above it. And it's in depression, so you should be able to come down and see down into it. So that's the basics of an orange course, and sort of what you're looking for, what it involves, and that kind of thing. So to recap, what you're expecting to, what's the sort of big difference is that you're moving away from tracks, as you probably noticed. And you're expected to sort of make your own route features out of contour features, or just take a bearing. So you need to be able to read the contour features, to use them as attack points and stepping stones and route features, and you need to be able to take bearings. Again, you don't have to be expert at either of those. Usually for an orange, if it's not one of the national competitions, they won't make them too hard. So especially again at college sport. And so if you're, say, killing it at your local sport, college sport, maybe run up a grade, or if for whatever reason you don't feel super dead after running your course, maybe it's worth just trying an orange afterwards and seeing how it goes if they've got any maps spare. Anyway, that's it from me this week. So, along with the cat, which is just off screen down here. Bye. See you next week. And if you like the videos for whatever reason, you can let me know via comments either on Facebook or put a comment on YouTube. And if you want to get the videos as soon as they're out, rather than when I eventually put up a link to it on either Facebook or through the Onslow email, then you could always subscribe, but don't feel compelled to. So anyway, bye for now.